I like that. The general manager of the Indianapolis Colts stops by here on the Fan Morning Show, 95 107.5 The Fan. It's good to see you again.
Yeah,
it's been a minute.
How you been?
I've been good.
Awesome.
You know, these guys are propping me up, but other than that, we're doing all right. You certainly had a busy day yesterday, and, you know, when you talk now, what's it like knowing that whatever you say, everybody's just going to magnify it and try to read the tea leaves and everything else for the next 48 hours or so.
That's always the case. So it is. Oh, can you
there we go, right there.
Is that better?
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's always the case. No matter what you say, they're going to cut it, splice it, and make it their own in terms of what it means. So
why are you looking right at me when you say that?
No, I'm giving a shot to him. The passive-aggressive one to my right.
We'll let you ask the first question.
Not passive-aggressive. I mean, I did ask, hey, injury-prone versus
he said he's ready to go Mike Wallace on you today. I don't know.
But one of the things, you know, it was a bit, I would say myself, surprising to hear that it's open a competition. So what do you think that just does for Anthony to have that out there in the open? I need to talk to him as well and to challenge him in that way.
Look, I think it's good for any player to get a little uncomfortable, and I think you can get the best out of people when you're uncomfortable. It is hard. You wish they were all. There's the elite of the elite, the Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, the Peyton Mannings of the world, that just no matter what the circumstances are, they're gonna reach to the highest level. And I think any player that can be challenged and really has to win something, the work they put in to win it, when they finally get it, they don't want to give it up. So I think this will be a good thing, not only for him, but also our football team.
It's the voice of Chris Ballard here, live at the Combine. Chris, as always, we appreciate the time. I know it's a super busy week for you. I had two items exiting yesterday that I wanted to hit on. First, Braden Smith. You mentioned he wants to play football again. Is now the question, will he be playing football for you?
Well, hopefully. All right. I'm not going to sit here and say 100% because we're working through that. And I still got to visit with Braden again. But when we talked this last week, he's in a good place. He's done a lot of work. And then we'll visit again here in the next 10 days. So we'll see how that plays out.
And then you kind of doubled down. Obviously, in January, it was much more, I think, maybe even an emotional state of got to add more competition, running back was a mistake, et cetera, et cetera. Yesterday, you said, I haven't done enough to make this team good enough for our staff. Where specifically do you feel that is?
Well, look, we drafted a young quarterback. I think we all know it starts right there. So we knew there was going to be some bumps. And anytime you take a young quarterback that hadn't really played a lot of football, you're taking a risk. So there's definitely can be questions asked. Did we make the right move? Not in terms of drafting him, but did we, putting him out there to play so soon? Okay, so you got to learn to analyze everything you're doing as you go along the way. And then once you get that position humming, well, a lot of things will fall into place. I think we've played pretty good up front. Not the sack production on the defensive front that we had a year ago, but I think we've done pretty good up front. I think at the skill position we have, especially at wideout, I think we finally got to a place where we've got our own guys, our young players. They're all ascending. I think that's a good thing. I think the biggest area I think we all know is the secondary. That's the one where we got to do some more work. We got to get some more playmakers, guys that can really make a difference, in the back end. Not easy to find. Not always, sometimes you're subject to what's available. And you got to get, here's the market and here's what's available. Not only in the draft, but also in free agency and also in, guys that get released. So a lot to work with, in terms of the back end. But I do think we have some pieces that, are young and still ascending.
And I'm not asking about wideout.
I mean, I almost said a cuss word.
No, I thought that was a loud F in a breath.
I dumped just to be safe.
See, we're not so bad, Chris.
James was not here. He obsessed. And that's when we were winning. Like, that's when we were doing good.
Last year at this time, I think Brock Bowers speaking to the media, maybe Tyler Warren tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, one that I do want to follow up on, and me being passive-aggressive, I love it. To be aggressive, seriously.
I knew you would get defensive on that little shot.
I mean, we love it. No, you know what's funny? I talk about this all the time. we throw jabs at you all day long, and if you throw like 3 back, everyone loses their mind.
It's
like,
great.
oh my God. I'm like, all right, it's fine. Like, we do this all the time. So we're all grown men. That's fine. But in all seriousness, hearing that comment, okay, open competition, I'm thinking, is this smoke screen? Like, how realistic is it for you to potentially have someone else come in and win the job when he's a number 4 pick 2 years ago? Like, how do you sell another quarterback on potentially coming here to compete, and how do you sell him on it being real and feeling real?
See, I mean, and it's like with anything. Until we actually get out there and do it, this will be the question. Like, how can you do it? How can they have the number 4 guy? Like, I don't know what I can do to convince you that this is true.
But I think it's about the other quarterback. It's about convincing the new quarterback.
And that's kind of the point I made yesterday. Is I think it depends on, who it is. And look, it was, and there's a lot of guys that, that in this league that have had rebound careers who have done great things. I even look at the year we had Gardner, that we did a lot of good things that year. And look, we come down to about 2 or 3 plays at the end that cost us winning the division and going to the playoffs. So you never know where that guy's going to come from. And there's free agency, there's the draft, there's a lot of avenues. You just never know. I mean, I'm sure Frisco didn't exactly 100% know they were getting with the last pick of the draft, Brock Purdy. So you just never know where that guy comes from.
Is trade an option as well?
I won't get into that.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say it's not.
I'm
not going to say it's not. I mean, not like we haven't done it before. I mean,
very fair.
Yeah.
Chris Ballard here with us live at the Convention Center, NFL Combine 2025. I guess on the trade front, you look at 14 overall and you think that needs to be a draft pick, or do you look at it as what you did a handful of years ago and making a move for DeForest Buckner?
I think it just depends. I mean, it has to be the right guy. That sometimes you got to get a little luck. You do. I mean, a luck with continuing to dig and dig into who's out there. Circumstances kind of matched up that year when we were able to get DeForest. So we'll see. It can go either way. We think it's a good draft. And I think there's going to be a really good player there at 14. But we'll see.
I know.
And whether we're moving up or back, I mean, I think that usually plays out on draft day.
I know it remains to be seen, obviously 2 weeks away from the real fireworks, if you will, but how much do you expect free agency to be different in how you've handled it in previous off seasons?
I think maybe just from my mindset, we will do what we have to do to make the team better. And that doesn't mean we're going to be undisciplined and do something just wild. Don't expect, okay, here's the Colts, and they've just spent $400 million on, all these different players. But we'll do our best to make this team better. I think that's the biggest thing we have to focus on. And like the one thing I do get, I don't want to say frustrated, but sometimes I think is unrealistic, is everybody lists a name. Like, if you don't get this name, it's not.
I'm guilty.
Yeah. And just all you have to do is look back and grade yourself.
Yeah.
Just grade yourself. And look, there's been times when I wish I would have done just a hair more to get a couple players that we were heavily involved with in free agency. Maybe if I'd have pushed a little hair more financially.
Is that where you view the difference for this offseason?
I think that's probably the biggest difference. Like, sometimes you just gotta finish it, and I think that's one of the things we have to look at. And then you have to have 2 that want to tango. They got to want to come here too.
We got Chris Ballard, general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, joining us here on the Fan Morning Show. When you look at this draft and the available players, it kind of feels, from my viewpoint and a lot of others, that maybe it's a defensive-heavy draft. Do you kind of see it that way right now?
I would agree. There's some really, and like in the last few days in interviews, I know we've had a bunch of defensive players in there, and they are. I mean, it's a talented group. I think at all 3 levels.
Yeah.
O-line, at D-line, linebacker, and in the secondary. So, yeah, it is a heavy defensive. There's no question it's a heavy defensive draft.
So does that help you being at 14? Because we all know guys get pipped at 11, 12, 13, but there's still a good pool of defensive players there if Warren is gone.
I know what
right?
you're getting at.
I know.
Did you just not know where this one was coming from?
Let's go.
One was coming from?
I decided to let him too.
There could be a wide out there. I mean, there could be a great O-lineman there. Think of the other offensive positions that could get pushed down. Wouldn't you love to see you two just lose it? if we take an O lineman right there, just an all-pro guy that goes to Pro Bowl as an O lineman.
I am on the record of saying this is a sneaky need, baby.
It's not terrible.
Nice guard for you there at 14.
But to the broader point,
nothing was better when we took Quentin, and they didn't know how to react to that one, because they knew we needed to fix the O line, but it was a guard.
And now he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and the rest is history. I will say, in mock drafts, your boy don't choose too many offensive linemen in mock drafts. I don't know many people who do that. It's not. I said your boy here, me.
Oh.
I don't know too many offensive linemen I'm choosing in my mock draft. That's always the one I get yelled at for.
Quarterbacks are happy when you do that, though, right?
There you go. There you go.
Chris Ballard with us here, year 9 for him. I guess let's go there. Well, why do you feel like you are getting a 9th year?
Look, it's a fair question. One that I think y'all know me well enough that I'm pretty honest. I'm pretty authentic. I feel fortunate to get another chance at this. We've had some, I wouldn't say bad luck, but we've had some bad luck. But I don't. That is what it is. That happens across the league. I did think we had a really good start to this thing under some tough circumstances. And then at the end of the 22 season, when everything kind of went south, where we had traded for the quarterback, we had signed Stephon Gilmore. It just didn't sometimes, and we had made moves. People, we forget about those moves, but at the time were really lauded, but didn't work. And not to those guys' fault. They're both great players, but I didn't put enough around them. And then when the organization decided to move forward, and move on from Frank. Jim and I had a long, Mr. Irsay and I had a long talk, and he said, Chris, look, I'm going to give you, I believe you can get this done. I'm going to give you an opportunity to get it done. So when we hired Shane, you're still, maybe I probably should have looked at the situation a little different, because we had I thought we had a really good roster still at the time. I didn't think it was as bad as how we played in 22, with some additions. And I think Jim, he had enough patience he knows I'm very honest, even when we have our talks. Like, I don't sit and try to blame others and throw everybody under the bus. Presented what we thought was a pretty good plan, and we'll see how it plays out this year.
Did you feel you needed to pitch yourself or pitch it to him like you deserved a 9th year, or did you feel like?
I think you know me well enough. That's not me. Hey, here's what it is. This is where we're at. And this is what we need to get done, and I'm confident we can get it done. I think you know me well enough to know, Kevin, that I'm not one politicking behind the scenes and doing. No, that's just not how I roll.
One that I asked Shane yesterday, end of the season, he's like, we're right there, we're close to flipping this thing. You come out a few days later and say, we're not close, but it's semantics. It's probably just different views as far as where the team is in different roles within the franchise. But all that to say, how do you view where the state of the team is now versus where you want to go ultimately, in living in that little bit of purgatory of being there but not being there, if that makes sense?
That's something I've thought about a lot too. I mean, look, we want to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's your ultimate goal. And for me to sit here, especially right after the season, and y'all go, hey, how close? Like, I'm being honest. Like, I told the team that. Like, no, we got work to do. And we've got to create enough competition and get the right people in the building that we're going to have a chance to do that. Time will tell, if we can get there or not. I believe we can, but I'm emotional. I will say what's like when you ask me a question, especially at the end of the season. When you ask me a question, I'm going to answer it, the way I'm feeling at the time. I usually don't give a slanted. Carbon copy of what everybody. I just here's what it is. So I think Shane and I are no doubt in agreement of we got work to do. But it's never as if you look at this league, how many games come down to one score, one possession. We certainly had a lot of them last year, and I think that's as you build confidence. You got a chance to push it over on those one-score games, which most of our games come down to anyways.
Chris, tell us a little bit about your new defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. Why him, and what does he bring?
Well, look, we've been watching. We happened to scrimmage against him.
Yeah.
So we got a live look at him then, and I remember telling Shane after the press, man, he is versatile on defense. He does a lot. He stresses you, not only, schematically, but with his disguise and the things he's doing. And then, I know Shane had to coach against him numerous times and always used to say, hey, look, this guy's very difficult to prepare for. So, and then after visiting with him and knowing his reputation, we have a lot of similar people that we've crossed paths with. We thought he was a great choice.
Will you have to scout differently at any position defensively?
A little bit, especially up front. I mean, Lou, and look, you always want big and fast. But
it's a big dude.
Yeah, I mean,
another DeForest Buckner, right?
Yeah, and Grover Stewart, who I think is probably one of the most underappreciated players in our league.
What about corner?
Big. So we're in agreement. We do want length. He's going to want to play some more, tight coverage, which I think is a good thing. I think it's a benefit to the guys we currently have on the roster. But at the end of the day, he's also flexible. It's not like, hey, this is what I want and this is what I need. And this is like with any coach, you've got to be flexible. Like sometimes this is what you have on the market, and this is what you have to adjust and play with.
How do you think he'll help with just the accountability part? I mean, first day he was there, he goes, I don't care how long you played, where you played, how your resume looks. You got to earn it. And I think that's something DeForest Buckner alluded to as well at the end of the season.
I think it's great. And I don't want to look, the other one we hired, we've hired a couple guys that I think are really good. But like Chris Hewitt, I think is outstanding. I don't know if we're paying enough attention to. I mean, this guy's been in Baltimore and done a tremendous job in Baltimore. And I think they've been there a long time. Thought, hey, you know what? I need to branch out. And I think he is really good. And you just look at what they've been able to do in Baltimore in the secondary and some of the guys they played with. And then to kind of get a little lucky and get Jerome Henderson, who's a veteran DB coach who just happened to be out there and had a relationship with Lou. We got to visit with him. He's humble. He's a freaking good coach. I don't want to underestimate the addition of those two because I think they're outstanding.
Again, that's the voice of Chris Ballard. Just a couple of minutes left here with the Colts GM. A quote that really stood out to me in January was, we need more tough guys. And you answered that in relation to a question about the inability to win kind of late season games. How do you define that? How do you define tough guys?
I think there's two things because it's hard. It's funny, I just talked to a group about resilience last week at one of the high schools, and how resilience is it's a feeling in my mind. Like resilience doesn't feel good when you think about it. Resilience doesn't feel good when you're going through it. But how do you become resilient? You got to fail. You got to suffer. You got to get dragged through the mud a little bit. And I think as we scout, and I'm not saying I think we do have some guys that have that quality. But competition and knowing that, hey, if I don't perform, I'm either going to be on the bench or I'm not going to be here. Usually will help create that resilience and that feeling of being uncomfortable along the way. At one point, I would tell you, I thought we had a really resilient, and I don't want to say don't have it's not where I think it needs to be. And I think we can stress them too, not only with the kids we bring, the players we bring in, but also how we prepare. Shane and I have talked a long time about that. Not that what we've done in the past is bad, but maybe it needs just to be a hair a little different. So we'll see how we adjust in that way too.
Last one from me. If you look back on your 8 years, what do you feel like your greatest achievement is as a GM?
2018 was really fun. And I wouldn't say a greatest achievement because it's never just me. Like, there's a bunch of people to win. It takes everybody. There's like I'll get a lot of the credit when we have success, and I'll get a lot of the blame which I deserve whenever we don't. But it takes a lot of people to have success. But watching Andrew come back from what he came back from, watching that team come back from 1-5, that was a cool experience. I mean, it really was. That was one of the coolest experiences in my career. And then building it where we were at. I mean, and with all those young, you remember how young we were.
Yeah,
I mean,
Leonard was huge.
We were, we were young. You had Braden, you had Quentin, you had Leonard, we were really, really young. So that would be one. Two, 2020 season is both a high and a low because I really thought we could, we lose that tough game in Buffalo. But bouncing back from 19, I thought those two seasons really stick with me. And then, and even in these hard years, we've had some cool moments that I really enjoyed. Like in 21, going to Buffalo and doing what we did to Buffalo, that was, and Frisco that. We went to Buffalo and Frisco that year and New England at home. If you remember the end of that game when Jonathan broke it and the sound of the crowd and the excitement, there's been some other cool game moments, but 18 and 20 were really, those were neat seasons. And in 20 especially just because of COVID. You remember what we went, we almost forget how hard that was on everybody, y'all, us,
so
players.
Weird, yeah.
And to be able to do that in very tough circumstances when other teams didn't, it was a credit to the organization.
Last one from me. I read a story from Indy Star, actually, when you were first on the job, no facial hair. You looked super young. And they said you had a binder and you had kept all these, notes and stuff throughout the years. So I say all that to say, you got a new binder, or how do you go about just assessing what you've learned, not only from yourself and your experiences, but what works and doesn't work league-wide?
Yeah, I've got I probably don't do it as much on paper, but I'm going to show you. I have got, if y'all ever get your hands on this, y'all would have a field day.
I was about to say, pass it over, brother. This is good content.
I've got 400 notes, and I have them all organized on. So usually at the end of every day, I have a book that I write in, but then I'll type it in. At the end of every day, I kind of type out and chronicle, okay, this is what I would have. It's quick. It dumps my mind. One of the things that's hard, I don't know if it's with y'all too, sometimes I can't turn my mind off at night. So you go home and it's, especially when you care, you care about what you're doing, the people you're doing it with, the city, one thing y'all don't think y'all have ever got about me, the criticism, I think that's fair. I like the debate. I like the banner. That's okay. Everybody has an opinion. I think everybody has a right to an opinion. I think that's one of the things that makes our country really special. But where my disappointment when we don't do well comes I feel like I'm letting an entire city organization down. And I want to do well for them. But at night, when things are not going your way, I got to dump it. I got to dump my thoughts or I will not sleep.
Sanity.
I will not sleep. So I've gotten where before I go to bed, I'll just, okay, here's what the day was. Here's the things I've learned. Here's where we got to, we've got to move forward.
Last thing for me, it's the topic of the whole combine right now. It's not really in your wheelhouse for obvious reasons, but is Travis Hunter a wide receiver or a defensive back? How would you use a guy like that?
I'd let him. He's special. He's special. We got blinders on all the time to conventional thinking of what it should look like with a player. He has to play one position. Why not? Why not let him play both? He's a freak talent. He's a good kid who works. Why not? Why not give it a shot? I know this. Whatever he ends up doing, he's going to be an excellent player. You put the tape on, and, everybody's going to have an opinion of which they think is better. It's 50-50 for me. You watch him as a wideout, and you're like, holy cow, this guy's really special. You watch him at corner, he can really cover. Why not? Now, there'll come a point where Father Time starts to jump on him a little bit where maybe he has to make a decision. But early in his career, why not?
Thanks for stopping by, as always.
Absolutely.
I look forward to these conversations. Great to see you again.
Appreciate it.
There he is, Chris Ballard, general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, with us live here on the Fan Morning Show.